All right, let's look at our next task, add loading screen to project list. So we want to see a loading indicator while the data is loading so that we know that the application is processing. So as it's making the API call and getting the data, we want to have a loading spinner in place. It's displayed while the request is pending, it is rotating, and then we'll cover it by a test. Then we can use the network tab to slow down the connection. And then we have our design here. We have our indicator. It's width and height. And then we have our mobile centered. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so we have our loading spinner. We put a break here in the file, and if we reload the page, we see we have our spinner. We can do the same by slowing down the network connection. We get our spinner right there. So what did we do? In our UI, we created a folder to hold our loading feature. And here we created our loading component, the imported SVG file from our designs. So we imported that, and that is the source for our image. We wrapped it in a container, div container. And to place it properly, we gave it a Flexbox container. We justified our content, aligning it properly, giving it a height of 300. For the spinning, we gave it an animation property, and we'll rotate it 360 degrees infinitely. Let's take a look at the layout though. So Flexbox will create a flex container around the div, and justified content will take the flex container spacing that is around the div and evenly distribute it. Without align items, we would have a default setting of align items stretch that will stretch the image. And since it is an image, images keep their aspect ratio, so therefore we have a very large image. In order to bring that image back down to its width and height, we can give it a property of align items center, which will take the spacing inside of the flex item itself and place appropriate space above and below it, keeping its appropriate width and height. And there we have it. And if we bring the window into the mobile view, we see that it is also centered as well. So let's look at our tests. All right, so we ran our test. We visit our local environment. We go fetch the element. You'll see it there on the screen. And we expect that to be visible. Then our data is fetched. We go looking for the DOM element, and we expect that DOM element not to exist. And then our projects will come in afterwards. How do we do that? So we have a display loading indicator while the request for data is pending. We'll set up our mock request to get the projects from our own JSON. Then we'll visit our local environment. And we won't wait for the request, like up here. We will go ahead and find the element, and we want to see that it is visible in the DOM, and visible on the screen. Then we'll get it again, but this time we want to make sure it's not existing, meaning it's not going to be a DOM element. It won't be not be visible, because not be visible will look for like display none, and we don't want it to be in the DOM but not visible. We want it to not be in the DOM at all. So that's what this line of code does for us. So there you go. We have our loading spinner and a test.